This week, we're going to talk about how to be a more confident teacher. And so last 2 weeks ago or so, we did another video. If you've not watched that, I'll link it in the description below. I'll also put it in one of these little poppy-uppy things up here. But there's a reason why to be a confident teacher. And we kind of talked about that in the last video, but the question I want to answer this week is like, how do we actually move into being confident educators? Because that's going to change everything in your classroom. And so I think the first thing is, I have to take my cheat sheet out. Jim Quick, who's really incredible. If you've not watched his kind of talks on memory and things of that nature, he's really worth checking out. Jim, hello. Hey man. Quick interruption from my uncle. Jim Quick says, having confidence is really to have belief in yourself. And so how do we build belief in ourselves, right? How do we gain that and then use it in the classroom? I have a couple of ideas. I'm going to run you through. It's about 6, but I don't teach math, so it might be 5, it might be 7. I don't really know. The first thing is starting at the end, right? Let's so the chalkboard up here. Start at the end. And so what does that mean? We want to have an idea of who do you want to become. Like if your dreams could come true and you could be the person in the classroom that you wanted to be, what would that actually look like? And so you have to know who you want to be, how you want to act, how you want to portray yourself, how you want your lessons to go. I think too often we lower the bar too much for our classes, and we start planning classes for the kids that we are just thinking about are going to ruin everything, that are going to be a problem, that are going to create chaos, instead of creating class for everyone and then dealing with those kids when we need to. And there's a million videos on not a million, but there's a lot of videos on the channel that you can look up as to how to deal with that one kid, or how to, work through classroom management issues and things of that nature. But we want to think of all of our students, because kids are missing out when we aren't walking into classrooms confidently, and then they're not getting the experience that I think they deserve. The other thing you want to keep in mind of is, what kind of characteristics does the optimum version of you have, right? So when we think about that, what kind of specific characteristics are you? Brave? How do you move around the classroom? How do you answer questions? How are you, are you standing on desks? Are you going outside? Are you sharing stories? Are you sharing your sense of humor in class? Like, what is your goodness, your specific goodness that you have that's going to move your class in the right direction? And then the other thing with this, when we're thinking of starting at the end, is, what do you not want to do anymore? What are you doing now that is, maybe you're acting out of fear? Maybe you are quiet. Maybe you walk in and don't even look confident. We're going to get to that in a moment, how to deal with that. But what is it specifically that you don't want to do anymore? Because it's great to know who you want to become, but it's really important to know who you do not want to be as well. The second thing I want to talk about is facing your fears. And when we think of this is kind of a no-doubt, right? But when we think of facing your fears, what that doesn't mean, right? What that doesn't mean is overcoming your fears, right? That's important. We want to for sure make sure that we overcome our fears. But in facing your fears, you're going to show up every day. You're going to put in the work. You're going to do the things that are necessary. You're going to look at what scares you and walk towards it. And that doesn't mean that you're going to win every time. But confidence is like a muscle, and it's something that you can build over time by showing up and showing up and showing up. If I think about, right, let me give you a weird example. If I think about the first time that I kissed my wife, right, which was like 27 years ago, right, 1995, if I did the math right, 1995, I remember the first time I kissed my wife, and I was all nervous and anxious, and it was weird, and I wasn't sure, like, oh my gosh, what if I miss? What if I kiss her nose on accident? I really, really liked her. But now, 27 years later, I'm pretty good at it, right? Like I can just cruise in and there's all different types of kisses, right? But like you can just kiss and you don't mess it up. Now, why am I using this as a metaphor for your classroom? I don't really know. It's the first thing that came to my mind. But the point is, when we first start doing anything, there can be a level of fear, a level of anxiety. But remember that fear, anxiety feels very, very similar to excitement. So I just kid myself sometimes. I try and trick myself into thinking that I just am feeling excited. That's the feeling in my stomach. It's not the fear and the anxiety. But remembering that we're facing fears, we're not necessarily overcoming them. That will come later, but I need to get myself into the rhythm of facing fears. The third thing is when you're going in, when you're walking in, right? Oh, that just changed a color that I didn't expect. This idea of walk tall, like the movie with the Rock. There was a study that was done that they looked at folks who walk confidently into social spaces. And so if you're going into a restaurant, a party, a dance, a classroom, right, a staff meeting, there are certain characteristics that folks that are confident have about them as opposed to those that don't. Now, some of those you might just be able to think of off the top of your head, but I thought that some of these were interesting. First, it is knowing who's going to be in the room. So whether it's an interview, whether you're going to someone's house, whether you are going to a store and you have to speak to the manager, whatever it is, right? Knowing who's going to be in the room. And then what that does is it gives you a set of you're not so anxious as to what's going to be in here, what's going to happen. I tell students all the time, if they're going to go in a job interview, see if you can be in that place. You're not shopping in the store, you're not, if you can be in their offices, if you can be in the store and get a sense of this is where I'm going to walk in, this is where I'm going to go next, this is what's going to happen next, this is where I'm going to sit during the interview if I have that ability. It's try to be in the place whenever I go and speak somewhere to try to I don't know that I have nerves so much anymore, but to try and calm my nerves if I am a little bit nervous about it. I want to just be in the room. I stand on the stage. I get a sense of what this is going to look like when I give this talk. And so when I go up there on the stage, it's not my first time. So think about that with regards to your classroom. Who's going to be in there? Where am I going to stand? Where am I sitting when I'm at my desk? And things of that nature are really going to help you kind of visualize and have a sense of this isn't such a mystery to me. The other thing that folks that are confident do is I never thought about this in my life. People who tend to not be as confident speak with their hands at their side. They make little tiny gestures maybe with their hands, but folks that are confident speak with their hands a lot. And I'm not saying I'm confident all the time, but I do talk with my hands a lot. But it is these big sweeping gestures. You're letting people know what you're talking about. You're moving around your classroom. You're talking to kids. You're pointing out things. You're raising your hands. You're clapping. You're getting a sense of you are creating a large presence with your body. And that is just one of the second thing that confident people tend to do. And the last thing is when someone's speaking, they lean in. Now, I'm not talking about crossing the invisible barrier of awkwardness where you get a little too close to my face. You know what I'm talking about? And there's ways to deal with that. But it is leaning into what someone's saying. It's really actively showing with your body that you're paying attention. You don't have to be a weirdo and lean over too much, but you're just leaning in enough where you're interested. Or if you're sitting at a table, you can put your elbows on the table and look at someone. It's that sort of leaning in that tells people it is a nonverbal cue that you are paying attention and that you are interested. The fourth thing I thought was really interesting and wasn't too much of a surprise to me as I was researching some of this stuff is suiting up, dress the part. If you want to be confident, wear something that you feel good in, right? And what that doesn't matter where you get that from. It doesn't matter how much it costs. It doesn't matter. You could go, rock some Old Navy. You don't have to be at, at some high-end store, but you're wearing something that you feel good in. Maybe it's a certain watch. Maybe it's a necklace. Maybe it's getting your hair done. I get my hair, isn't too much information, but I get my hair cut just about every 2 weeks, every other Wednesday, because I really like when my hair is cut, makes me feel good. Haircut culture is really big in my school. I always get compliments when I get haircuts, which is a little tricky. I usually tell teachers never do haircuts midweek because it's going to create all kinds of chaos and stuff. It's never shave your beard midweek or like cut your hair short midweek because it's just going to, good luck teaching for the rest of the week. But it is wearing something that makes you feel good about yourself. And look, I think the last thing is, well, there's maybe a sixth one, but we're going with full Ted Lasso here. You have to believe. If you don't believe that you can eventually become a person who is confident, who is leading their classroom, not just managing their classroom, they are taking their students from one place to another and doing that in a way that is giving them energy, that makes them feel good about life, that makes them excited about walking into the classroom every day and doing the work that they've been given to do. That if you don't have that belief, this is going to be, I'm going to say it's going to be almost impossible. And here's why. Because if we don't confidently move in the direction that we are dreaming of doing, I think that's Henry David Thoreau said something like that, then we cannot achieve what we want to achieve. The trick is your mind, right? And I'm not going to go down this whole rabbit hole, but the neuroscience shows us that our minds believe things even if they are not real. So walking confidently, putting your shoulders up, putting your chin up, walking, having something on that you like, walking into a classroom and facing your fears, walking tall, you are tricking yourself into believing that you are confident, and your brain doesn't know the difference. It will just go with whatever you're going with, however you're acting, and your students will too. I had a teacher, a mentor, tell me years ago that teaching is 90% acting. So I walk in some days, and I'm not about like, I'll share what's going on in my life, but there are days when I just don't feel like it, man. It's like seasonal depression, or it's like I didn't get enough sleep last night, but I know I gotta like suit up, get ready, and go into the classroom. I'll prep myself, fill myself up with as much energy as I can in the morning, and then execute. And I have to believe it. And then what happens is my mind follows that. My mind follows my actions. And I think if I was gonna add a third one or a sixth one, it is, if you are really struggling with this, I think at least considering the attending a therapy session, a counseling session, a group therapy session, something of that nature, if you're really struggling with this, is going to unlock a number of things in you. So it turns out, studies show that having self-confidence is not something that anyone is born with, despite what others might believe. You might work with someone, you're like, dude, this guy was born like this. They were born confident, right? I know that I am confident in the things that I feel like I have ownership over, that I can control, that I have gotten better at. But I certainly wasn't confident as a kid. I mean, I spent my whole ninth grade year, let me tell you this, my whole ninth grade year, I didn't talk to anyone. I never spoke to, I mean, that might be a little bit of exaggeration, but ultimately, like for the major part of my year, I said not one word to anyone because I didn't think anyone cared about what I thought. And so this is a muscle that you gain over time. But what actually creates self-confidence when we're young is how we're raised. And so if you have some sort of past childhood trauma, you have something that you may have gone through that's affecting your confidence now as an adult, I would say really considering seeing a therapist. If you're a teacher, most of us have really good health insurance that is going to minimize the cost. And if not, there are a number of online companies, none of which I'm working with, but that you can go. I think Better Health is one of them, where you can go on, you can find a therapist that fits you, and that's just going to help you to heal some of that trauma so that you can walk tall for the rest of your career. Remember, this teaching thing is a craft. And although we want excellence, we know that excellence is created. It doesn't just hit right away, right? Don't look at other teachers and think that they've been excellent from the jump, because they haven't been. Everyone gets better. But to get better, we have to be better. And to be better, I think these are a few of the ways that you're going to be able to up your confidence, to feel strong, to feel important, because ultimately at the end of the day, education's only ever about students. but we have to be at our best to be able to give kids our best. If you're not at your best, you can't do that, but that doesn't mean you can't get there. You absolutely can. And so with that, gang, if there's anything else we can do for you, you can, I like to have a picture of myself. I didn't even think about that when I was making this. Actually my wife made it, but you can go right to realrapwithreynolds.com for anything else that you might need. You can follow us on social. My book's available on Amazon. And that's it for this week, gang. Peace.